Hello, welcome to Footy Chat. It's been a big week of footy and it's going to be an even bigger week this week. Got a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. Before we start talking about footy though, how's your weekends been?
It's been good. There was a little bit of football, well, quite a bit of football and other sport on, so I've had a good week. Woodsy?
Yes, had a good week, had a good weekend, thank you. Lots going on and good to be on.
Well, you played Thursday night, didn't you? So
we
you
did.
Kind of had a footy-free weekend, not have to worry too much about it.
But Josh on the Footy Chat for the first time. Well,
Yes.
first time proper.
Yes, I should actually say, and I think the biggest addition,
Yeah.
if you look behind us,
Yes,
how
of
awesome is
course.
this? Been in the works. We've got each of our teams. You now know who we go for. It's undeniable.
If there wasn't any doubt beforehand.
So the requirements for being on Footy Chat now is you have to have one of them, otherwise it's going to look pretty dumb. So Boxy, we don't have Hawthorn. So sorry. You might have to bring one in if you want to guest star. And Fish, we don't have Swan, so same goes for you. But it's been big. I've been absolutely unable to watch so much footy this weekend because I've been at a gaming convention.
Ah, okay.
So I've been doing media, running around like that, absolutely tired. I did catch the Saints game though, but I've got pick of the week. It's been a bit different this week. It is not action. It's just something I saw on social media. It was sent to me, and I'm like, this is the perfect pick of the week. I think it just encapsulates footy, the way footy social media is going. So first of all, let's just chuck it up. So it was after St Kilda's win. We did defeat Geelong. I'm not going to rub it in with too much, but it was a video, titanium blaring, darts players celebrating, obviously, Sench Footy and St Kilda collab. So shout out to Sench Footy and St Kilda for this amazing photo. Now, obviously, you two are darts players.
We do.
I just want to know, like, is he a well-known darts player? Is he not?
Yeah, he's a relatively big name.
A
Relatively.
big name. Now, it's funny that you mentioned that because I've actually seen this shirt before. Now, if you go to the next photo.
Yeah.
So, Lorenzo.
Yes. I am
Lorenzo,
familiar with
you are a big fan of this guy.
I am familiar with Stephen the Bullet Bunting.
Stephen the Bullet Bunting.
I'll go back to it.
If you go back to it, this is, I saw it. It was Josh that posted in our group chat.
I think it was Josh and Boxy pretty much at the same
both.
time.
It was Boxy first, then Josh, but
He saw
I'm
it
giving
first,
Josh the
to
credit.
his
But
credit.
I'm not going to rub it in because I don't need to rub it in. I think St Kilda and Sench Footy have done it for me.
That's very funny.
I was going to
funny.
be very...
Bullet in the heart. Bullet. You talk about Stephen the Bullet Bunting. It's gone straight to the heart.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to mention. I actually thought we were going to lose, but we'll go into what caught your attention. Move on from this. I won't have this photo up too much longer for you. So if we move along to what caught your attention, and I will start off with St Kilda Geelong.
Yeah.
So,
Well, might as well just leave this here for the moment, given what we're talking about.
St Kilda decided to actually show up early to a game.
And Geelong didn't. And that was the difference pretty much. That was the
And
difference.
stuff that I mentioned last week, in especially the Marvel factor.
There we go. We'll get into the review.
The Marvel factor played into it.
It
It's
did.
now the fourth
Interesting.
game in a row that St Kilda have beaten Geelong and Marvel Stadium, so if we can keep playing them there, that would be amazing. However, to say I wasn't stressing and to say I wasn't fearful would be a lie. I was absolutely shitting myself.
In the last quarter.
In the last quarter, that
Oh,
goal
sure you
that
were.
was kicked, that was actually came off the Saints player's
Oh,
foot.
yeah.
I seriously think that if that had have been a goal to Geelong, you guys would have absolutely ran away with it. That just put a stop on your momentum.
It did.
And I had that fear of Geelong are going to kick a goal out of nowhere and it's going to be just pain. However, not to be, and it was joyous. So, unfortunately for you two,
Yeah, so
I'm sitting at the winners' table this week.
You are?
And you're sitting in the
Congratulations.
losers' corner or the losers' alley.
Corners.
Well, that was the big takeaway of the weekend, wasn't for many teams, especially Adelaide and North Melbourne as well. We should touch on them. It was a marvellous occasion for them on Sunday. The joy of winning was sensational stuff, and I'm sure it was for all the St Kilda fans. Plenty of North and Saints people calling into Waitley's program on Monday for their snap judgments. They were very excited. As for Carlton, Melbourne and Essendon, well, the pain of losing was very immense. Couple of weeks in and not looking good. I think Essendon supporters in particular are already embracing the absolute worst of what's happening at the moment. So the joy of winning and the pain of losing, the chasms apart. There's a grand canyon between them at the moment.
I will
Particularly
say,
if you're a team that is losing a lot, or in the case of North Melbourne, and even to a lesser extent St Kilda, you're not used to winning as often.
I will say, you
It is
mentioned
joyous
Adelaide.
occasions.
You mentioned Adelaide and North Melbourne there, as well as St Kilda. Now, for Adelaide, they are showing that they are in the conversation with Hawthorn at the moment.
I had them for
genuinely
finals.
believe so.
I mentioned that I like them for finals before the season started as a big call for the season, and
I
I had Essendon in the finals as well. So that one
I
isn't
doubt
looking
about
good,
the
but
two Adelaide
Adelaide.
teams, and Adelaide are showcasing why they should be taken seriously. Port Adelaide are still
They're a bit all over the place.
There's
at
still
times.
answers
Yep.
to be
Plenty of answers.
questions to be answered, I should say. North Melbourne, they did well against Western Bulldogs and once again against Melbourne. And I just forgot for a second who they played there. But North Melbourne are playing so different, and they could be in a few years' time, like in that discussion, if they go well. And I think St Kilda, I'm being biased here, I think
Oh yeah.
there's been a lot of talk, and I will kind of mention this now in regards to the chatter, because it actually relates to one of your players, Tom de Koning.
I knew you were going to say that at one point.
So
A slab of money on the table, right?
it's interesting, slab of money, and apparently more money than Carlton can counter-offer with. That to me is interesting, and you're probably thinking I'm rubbing this in, but I'm actually doing the opposite. I'm not rubbing it in at all, because I'm going to go in a different direction now. Now, I know there's Miles Bergman from Port Adelaide.
Yep.
And there's another player, I think GWS, Lee Kalia.
Yep.
They're three players that we're looking at targeting. And
Lots of trade talk
L-
already in March.
Love
LDU.
it.
No, it's interesting, LDU as well. But the point is, and this is the point, and you're probably thinking, why
are you bringing
you've
this up?
You've just had a win, and why are you talking about? I think this is like the window perfectly things. Like, yes, we can be targeting Tom de Koning. Yeah, throw all the money at him, but I want to keep the players we've got.
That's true.
So I know it's taken a bit of time for me to get to my point, and I was kind of building into it. But as a fan, I'm loving what I'm seeing here, and I'm like, if we can keep the core group of young players, develop them, in 3-4 years' time, we could seriously have serious discussions, and I'm going to mention serious a couple of times, but we could be in the realm of that elusive second premiership. But we need to actually...
Don't get ahead of yourself. You just won one
You've only
game at
won one
Marvel Stadium at
game.
home against Geelong.
But that's the thing. I'm not talking about this season. I'm talking about
Yeah.
3-4 years' time where, yes, it's okay to target Tom de Koning, Miles Bergman, LDU,
and
but
others.
if that's coming at the price of Nasai Wangani Malera, Marcus Windhager, Michito Owens. Now, I know some of them have re-signed already, but Nas, like, we've got to keep him.
Yeah. He's
think-
integral to your back line. Absolutely. He's fantastic off half-back, takes plenty of kick-ins, and he has got a very clean foot. He guides that football very well.
So, so I know I kind of added that little bit of a reminder that, and I probably will do it every time you're on.
No, you're
is
right.
Just mention Tom de Koning.
I am genuinely feared that he will leave to St Kilda. I am genuinely feared just by our
Is there any
form.
chance he can pop over and play with his with the
That-
other
that-
DeConing by any
I was
chance?
about to mention that. I was
With
about
the
to
superior DeConing?
Really? I don't know. But I hope he stays. He's literally my wallpaper, just like bunting for you.
Oh, okay,
He
on the
is-
phone.
Yes, he is actually.
Well,
He is.
I'll happily take over.
He's one of my favourite players,
I'll
for sure.
happily
Always has
take.
been.
I'll happily take over the wallpaper next year. But for
I hope
every
he
winner,
stays.
for
I
every
really
winner,
does.
there must be losers.
Yes.
And for Carlton, Melbourne, and
Oh, boy.
Essendon,
In particular.
Yes,
I
in
think those
particular.
discussions are Essendon. Not, I mean, high scoring affair.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sure.
So there's
100
good news and bad
points.
news for Bomber supporters. The good news
100
is you can
points.
score 100 points. The bad news is you can see you're still lost by 10 goals. 61-point loss. I love, by the way, whenever you get something like the game we got at the MCG, where it's like 30, 40-something goals, and because the score lines always look stupid. 100, 25-11, 161 to 15-10, 100. So, I mean, back six, they're all shambles at the moment, Essendon, and that's been well pointed out by multiple people during the week, and that's the reality they've got at the moment. And a team that hasn't won a final in 21 years might be in a rebuilding phase, if you can believe it.
So, talking about the amount of goals, I just want to run through them. So, I'm not going to do it in order, but I will finish Essendon and Adelaide last. So, in order of how they played. So, Carlton Hawthorn had 20 goals.
Same with the
Doggies, Collingwood also had 20 goals. Port Adelaide Richmond had 30 goals. St Kilda Geelong had 28 goals. Brisbane West Coast had 25 goals. North Melbourne had 28 goals, and Fremantle Sydney had 18 goals.
They let us down there right at the end. Everyone else was up in the 20s. And
Essendon,
65,
Essendon
68
Adelaide,
let us down.
Essendon Adelaide had 40 goals.
Wow.
15 goals to Essendon, which usually would probably be
It would have been in Carlton. That's
15,
pretty close.
10, 100. But 25, 11, 161 to Adelaide.
Nuts.
So I think you look at all the losers though, and I think Geelong didn't show up in the first quarter.
Yes,
and
that is the very clear takeaway. I watched that first quarter and went,
I
my word, they're all over us. What's going on?
I think we were 41 points up.
I think you got to 41
points. 3 quarters?
Yeah,
Third quarter?
sort of partway through the third, yeah. I always felt Geelong, the frustrating thing about watching that game is Geelong would kick a goal right and get back into sort of a manageable margin. And then St Kilda kicked the next goal. And it's like, we're out of a manageable margin here again. And I think you are right. That ball coming off the St Kilda defender instead of Brad Close, I think it was for Geelong. If it went the other way and that Geelong goal had stood as it was called on the field, it was rightly quarter behind, obviously.
Yep.
But if that might have been the one moment where if you flipped that, we might have got a different result. But it would have been absolute robbery if we won that game based on how we turned up in the first quarter, or lack of it through the first quarter, and even most of the first half.
Yep.
End up kicking 30 goals, 13. So we were only 29 points away from my big call, which isn't. Which is better than what it was looking like.
Well, I was about 200 points away from mine in the end. But if I want to break this down on St Kilda Geelong once more, Geelong kicked 3 goals. So in the third quarter, 41-point margin, I believe it was. Geelong kicked 3 goals. St Kilda kicked 1. Geelong kicked end of the third quarter, and then in the fourth quarter, Geelong kicked a goal. St Kilda kicked another goal.
Yep.
Then Geelong kicked a goal through. It was Closey.
Yep, Closey.
Dempsey and Neil.
Yeah.
And then it was the behind
first.
was who was it? It was
A couple of rush behinds, I think.
It was that off the boot.
Off the boot. It was Brad Close of Geelong, and I can't remember the second player.
So Brad Close.
I'm pretty sure it was Brad Close.
You put that one in, it's almost giving full momentum back in the centre, free ball. Like, we were able to kind of shut the game down, slow the game down, take time off the clock. But it's one of those things when you're in front, you just want to be in front by more.
Yep.
You want that buffer. But
yeah, it was Brad Close.
I will go into Melbourne, and what happened?
And it was Wangani Miller who was the Saints defender there. I couldn't remember.
And he basically called that I touched that.
Yeah, he pretty much got it straight away. And it actually, at home, Dad was actually watching alongside me. We both said pretty much at the time, I think that's come off St Kilda last there. So that was a big moment in retrospect because that would have got it back within a kick. You were going to talk about Melbourne, sorry.
Yeah, Melbourne. So they were 76-58 at three-quarter time and then conceded the first 6 goals of the last quarter.
Remarkable.
North Melbourne have not had a fourth quarter like that ever. In the last 5 years. The last time, and I put this in the WhatsApp, you're going to follow up.
I want to hear these stats. I want to hear these stats.
The last time North Melbourne specifically scored more than 100 or 100 or more points in a game and actually won, you've got to go back to the last round of 2023.
Wow.
So when they beat the Suns in a thrashing down in Tassie. They did score more than 100 points once last year in 2024 and lost to Collingwood. That's the famous game when they got out to a big lead, choked it. There was that a 50, was it not, at the end of that game at Marvel, if you remember that one? I believe Australia and Scotland were playing in the T20 World Cup match at the same time, pretty much. So two-screen strategy sort of thing. But yeah, so North Melbourne have not seen a performance like that in a while. Their supporters were very excited, and rightly so. That there
were a few upsets
after getting relatively close last week to the Dogs. It was maybe the feel good story of the weekend to see North Melbourne pick up a win.
So a few upsets: North Melbourne and St Kilda over Geelong. North Melbourne over Melbourne, of course. Now moving on. Usually here I would have a Yoda rant.
That one.
But I decided it's not an every week thing.
Unlike the Volcano, it's coming back.
That just wait, there will be something, but I think for now it's kind of Yoda is settled.
Okay.
For now.
But we'll wait.
A big part of this is the fact that St Kilda won. If St Kilda had
Yes.
lost, he would have found something to get angry
Would have blown
about.
up.
And
I would have, but I'm just glad we're not 0-2, and I mean we play Richmond this week, so the only chance I might have of being 2-1 for some time, and then we play Port Adelaide and GWS after that. So for now, I'm settled. I would have a rant about the travel to South Australia 3 times in 5 weeks, and that being on equal with Adelaide and Port Adelaide is the games in the first 5 rounds in South Australia. So I will hold off any more talk about that. But we'll move along, and we'll move along to the segment of obviously the horse race.
dude,
We're just going to see how it's going. So if we're going to always go through like the start, or go into the 100 meters, and then we'll go into see where they've actually ended up. So if you kick it off now, so this was
last
them
week
out of the gates, and obviously Richmond just bolted out of the gates after defeating Carlton. We've got Adelaide, Geelong there, Hawthorn on the fence, Gold Coast are in a good position, Collingwood there.
Wider at.
We've got this midfield pack. North Melbourne, after a great performance against the Doggies, finished up midfield. Then we have the trailing 6. So obviously there's been a few changes because there's been a few winners here, been a few losers there. So if we advance it now, we'll see the progression. So Richmond just after the good... They're just settling back into the field now. St Kilda were able to just get out of a pocket and follow Port Adelaide here.
Yep.
North Melbourne in the same position as they were.
Yep.
Just giving Brisbane a nice trail.
Yeah, trailing Brisbane. That's a smart move.
Held up a little bit after losing to Collingwood. Collingwood are staying 3 wide. Hawthorn are getting off the fence just to position themselves beautifully. Adelaide on the fence there. Geelong on the fence in front of Giants and Gold Coast. Those two teams had the bye.
Yep.
Sydney finding themselves midfield. And then we've got these trailers here. Melbourne. If you go back to round 1, I just want to show you this. This is where I had this is where I had them, but you'll see this is kind of my rating system.
Yep.
So I had them midfield, and then after losing to North Melbourne, and so North Melbourne are just coming into the fence, settling themselves there. Melbourne just trailing right back. It's kind of like they're not just unsettled, if you will. But Carlton, I'm sorry to say, but losing to Richmond and losing to Hawthorn. Yep. You got the Doggies this week, so hopefully you can kind of progress.
Get up there somewhere, hey?
And West Coast, I mean, it was always going to be tough for them, and the track doesn't quite settle them this race, but the owners decided to put them through the race. So
fair enough.
This is at the 200 metres. It is going to be a 2,800 metre race. Obviously, there's the buys as well, which will be interesting to see, but... Do you agree with this?
This is a fairly reasonable.
Fair assumption.
Mostly. Is there anything there? Adelaide have got the strong starters as the Hawks.
Yeah.
And
I'd probably tag Collingwood a little bit further back, to be honest. I definitely have them behind the Giants at the moment, given the fact the Giants just beat Collingwood fairly recently. I'm happy to see where I'm happy to see Geelong just in the front part of the field. Though that's the main thing.
I mentioned earlier I can't rate Port Adelaide, but I think the strong game they had. That's why they're 3 wide. They're just they're not on the fence. I think if you're on the fence, you're in that area where
you're showing consistent.
You're showing
good stuff.
If
you're more likely to stay there.
If you're ahead of Sydney, I reckon Sydney those 3. I mean, you got. Collingwood, I don't know if they're going
Mind you, the Suns have only played once, so we haven't got much to go off on Gold Coast.
But Collingwood, they might fall
the
back.
The ladder's an absolute shambles.
I think Adelaide at the moment, they're selling themselves at just there. Hawthorn, I feel like it's going to be Adelaide and Hawthorn at the moment. That's why I've got Hawthorn just jumping off the fence, and they're going to be contending. But that is the season 2025 horse race handicap. Over the 2,700 metres. Now, bad kicking is bad football.
Yep.
I gave you the task this week of... I
got this. I need to just move this because apparently the heavyweight champions are ahead, which is not what we want on this, so I'm going to move that further down. Alrighty, let me sorry, I'm just mucking around here. Here we go. So I've decided last minute put up the Tigers. I think the thing on the rundown still from last week, so we'll get rid of that.
Yeah, that's all right.
We'll go Richmond. I mean it would have been the easier one. It was a toss up between Carlton
mathematically, as you
and
said,
Richmond.
9-14.
So I've gone with perhaps maybe more of the heart of just the mathematical 9-14
Yep.
when you're playing a team like Port Adelaide who were at home and were trying to prove themselves after a bit of a stinker the previous week at the MCG against Collingwood. You needed a little bit better than 9-14. Honourable mention to Carlton, 8 goals, 12. But at this point, we know Carlton's back don't kick very well, so it's less of a wall of shame for them because it's just a regular thing for them now.
It has been, unfortunately. Well, it doesn't help when you kick 4 behinds in the last quarter
exactly.
and 2 goals for the second half. That's just simply not good enough.
So
That's not
yeah,
gonna cut it.
Yeah, I'm actually going to query this because I've got 2 teams that looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, those are 2 teams I might have marked. I gave you the task this week of picking it. However, I'd like to discuss Collingwood and Sydney. Both teams won. Both teams won close games. Now, if you actually look at the scoreline, though, 10-10 to 10-16. So 6 scoring shots more, but they could have easily held that off. Sydney played Fremantle. Fremantle scored 9-11 to Sydney's 9-14. So I'll accept Richmond there, but
I think winning is a bit. Winning does lots of things. You sort of
winning gives you the pass. However, I'm going to go from next week onwards in close games. I want to see the winners also be held to account because I think 10-16 in a close game. If you put that as say 13-13. It changes the dynamic of it.
Yep.
If you make it 12, what would it be? 12-11. It's 3 goals. So I like Richmond as one of them, but I'm going to put on notice for winners now.
You're not getting away from Woodsy's wrath
Winners
in the future.
Winners in close games, I'm going to put on notice because as a fan, I think it's most frustrating that you have games where
that's the complete wall of shame. Now we've
complete wall of shame.
I like that graphic.
Yeah,
we got 3.
We got the 3.
It's funny how I mentioned Collingwood and they were the round 0.
Yes.
Hall of Shame. So
basically,
it
was basically a toss up between Richmond, who we put on there, and Collingwood and Carlton, who are already on there. So it's similar
I
sort of.
I would have considered Sydney there as well,
and even
but
Sydney.
Collingwood and Sydney, you escape it. Carlton, you escape it. But moving forward, I think even if you win, you're not safe from bad kicking is bad football. Now, another thing you're not safe from is the Volcanzo.
No, absolutely not.
And I'm excited to hear what the Volcanzo is.
The Volcanzo's
this
back
week.
this week. Bang! We got the explosions, and we don't have. We just have the. We
don't have the graphics.
My first Volcanzo might have
Kane
to go
Cornstar's.
to, no, or Damien Barrett now on the Sunday Footy Show. My first Volcanzo might have to be the fact that the at the heavyweight champion was much further up on the camera. I completely forgot to move it. Anyway, that's fine now. I've sorted that out. So Volcanzo time. We'll get into Raid and Hate after that as well. But this week we're looking at the West Coast Eagles. Funnily enough, we will get back to this particular game when we talk heavyweight champions because Brisbane have retained their belt and the Cats will be the challenger next week. But they got over the line, Brisbane, by 19 points. But this week, after I mentioned him on the online show we did last week, Harley Reid, he had a very interesting game. Now, I'm not so much Volcanzoing him. He gave away 7 free kicks. It wasn't his greatest performance. The middle finger to the crowd was just quite funny. But more than anything else, the Volcanzo this week is at the West Coast Eagles, is at the West Coast Football Club, is at Andrew McWalter. It's their job more than anybody else to just rein him in a little bit. And what they need to do is they need to find somebody, anybody it is, who's preferably a retired player. There's people within the club probably who can just sit down with him, maybe rewatch some of his best bits and his worst bits, because there's been plenty of that when he's been in the AFL system. Because at the moment, like I said last week, he's a little bit all over the place, and sometimes, much like Cameron Menzies, it's actually very similar to Cameron Menzies. We were talking about the 9 Dub podcast. Sometimes I don't think your mind is that much on the actual sport and actually trying to. We saw Cameron Menzies hilariously miscount at the European Tour on the weekend. You'll have to watch the 9 Dub pod for that debate. I might put that up as the social media one, by the way. But they just need the West Coast Eagles just need to find somebody, whether in or outside of the club, sit Harley Reid down, because Andrew McCarter was saying afterwards, and look, it's fine to say it publicly. That's like, he's a character. We love characters. We don't want to get out of the game. That's fine publicly, but privately, you've got to be willing him in. If they don't do that, Harley Reid, who, like I said last week, his ceiling is legend status Hall of Fame. He's got that level of talent to be a sort of Dustin Martin, Joel Selwood-like player for the next 10, 15 years. At the moment, you wouldn't pay him millions of dollars per year as a contract, because he is not hitting that level as of yet. He could definitely do so.
Absolutely.
The figure that I would like to see, if you talk about former footballer talking to Harley Reid, the perfect one for me, funnily enough, given the fact that he's been on the charge of this, is Kane Corns, because he was a very similar type of player when he came into the competition. Also had a middle finger moment in the early days of his career, and he admitted that that's one of the worst things he's ever done on the football field, and he's rather embarrassed by that, Kane. So he's the type of person you want to be a role model for him, basically, and if they don't do that, the Eagles, they're a great danger of risking one of the great talents who just sort of gets washed away at the moment. It must be, to be fair, quite a difficult situation for Harley, given there's so much pressure on him, and he's not particularly playing in a very good football team at the moment. The West Coast Eagles have been anchored at the bottom of the ladder for, the last 2, 3, 4 years now?
Yeah, roughly.
So there's a lot of pressure on him. I always like a character. No problem with him having a little bit of character, but they just need to wheel him in. They just need to, much like Littler with the big fish, reel him in at the moment and say, hey, mate, you genuinely could be one of the greatest footballers of your generation, but at the moment you're nowhere near that because you're spending too much time worrying about what, to be fair, he was a flog in the crowd trying to give him tissues. That was just disgraceful too. Anyway, and the outfit too the outfit he was wearing too was terrible. Anyway, that's the Volcanoes this week. West Coast, reel him in, and don't be a flog if you're going to the football. That's probably a bit difficult to ask for Australian Football League fans. They're terrible. Anyway, that's the Volcanoes this week. Woodsy, there's a few different areas in there.
I love it. Now, obviously, we're going to rate or hate, and as
one of our favourites.
It's always footy jumper theme. Now, I've got a Carlton one to start off with.
Oh, yes. Please.
We progress as we jump on to the next slide.
Yeah, so we've got...
You haven't seen this.
I haven't seen this. No.
But before Lorenzo changes the slide over, have you got any ideas what we could have gone with? The theme this week is charity or causes.
Yes. We did have the baby blue at one stage. Now, I'm not sure if that was...
That was technically when that first came in, it was Eminem. It was an Eminem promotion in 1997.
That's not charities.
Yeah.
So that's going to fall into another category I've got lined up because I've got the Pure Light St Kilda jumpers. I've got all the other Origin Energy doggies. So, but this is charities.
We had some sort of like yellow one at some stage. We
had
some
yellow.
Like
did you have a yellow one? Can we have a look? Just check it up.
Top left. There it is.
It's the Armstrong.
I told you.
That is well thought of. Well,
I told you.
So it is the yellow.
This isn't Richmond, guys. Come on now.
This is one of the worst jumpers of all time. And it turns out it hasn't aged well, has it?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Associating with Lance Armstrong. But
Lance Armstrong.
I knew he had some sort of yellow in there.
So the yellow jersey.
For...
Guernsey, Lance Armstrong bikes, Tour de France, the doping.
Yep.
But that's that one. We've got the St Kilda Maddies match one, which I
always
actually
a good one. Yes,
you have a version of a different one.
I've got this.
Oh no, the same. Sorry, the same one. Sorry.
Yeah,
you got a couple.
I've got the X version.
You got that one.
X-Blades one, which was 42, which I don't know.
Yep. So that's that one.
So that's
on
that
the top
one.
right-hand screen.
And then we've got Fremantle Starlight Foundation. Now this one.
It's pretty cool.
I've also got this one, which we never wore in a match, but I'm going to include it. So this is why this one.
And this is probably their best one too. That sadly was never worn.
This was the best one. This was in 2020, so obviously
COVID.
Yep.
And I think it might have been a manufacturing issue that they I think we trained in them, but they trained in retail ones, and then these ones came in after.
The player issued ones.
I've just noticed the foundation logo on the top and the foundation logo above there. This is in the days before the above the number sponsor. So they were doing that. They were a bit ahead of their time there.
If you look at this one, look at this one and see how small.
Yeah, but it's tiny.
Look, I don't know
Oh,
if
wow,
you
that
can
is
see that. Like, you can
tiny.
see the comparison in the logos here.
Yep.
And I don't know if...
If we pan to this camera.
I'm going to just quickly go into footy jumpers while we
Wow.
discuss the things, just to see if I can actually see what year that is based on that. But I'll start off with the Carlton jumper.
Yep.
I hate it.
Oh, it's one of the worst.
It's one that you look at. I mean,
Instant hate. Yeah.
so with
Instant
jumpers,
hate.
you always take off the controversies behind it. So
Sure,
obviously linked
sure.
with Lance Armstrong. Why did Carlton go down this route?
Ask our retail suppliers. I don't know. It's got nothing to do with us. Sure, the emblem's blue, but that's about it.
It's a different emblem to the one you do now. It's the
Yes.
inferior version. The one you've got is the better one, is the older, more historical one.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not a good a good looking jumper.
No,
It doesn't make you
It's
think.
gross.
It doesn't make you think Carlton with that particular shade of yellow. That particular shade of yellow isn't even a nice yellow, unlike
No,
the
it's
one on the
sort
Fremantle
of-
one. That's a much nicer yellow.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, if it was like that, it may have been a fraction better, but nah, it's instant
No,
hate for me,
no.
without a doubt.
It's rarely ever good in any sport, and this might be a volcano of its own. If you are creating a jumper for a new jumper for a sports team,
Yep.
do never ever look to colours that are not the team's official colours.
Yep.
If you stray outside of those, it's almost guaranteed failure. Almost always. The St
Almost.
Kilda one is a rare one where it does work.
Well,
Almost always it doesn't. Almost always it never works.
I think yes and no. Like if you look at
Yeah.
Richmond's,
Almost always
Richmond's one, which we might have later, that you have the glimpses of
As in sort of like
the
the night,
yeah.
but
the China one as well when they did that.
the difference with
international-
the
game.
difference with this, with at least this one here, is it's not the
The
main
blue one.
color of the jumper,
No.
Yeah.
which is
I think if Carlton should have just had like a yellow CFC, would have been a little bit less
Yep.
subtle,
Yeah.
or would have been more.
that would have
subtle, I should
contrasted
say.
all right.
But
Blue
all
and
yellow is just.
but all yellow is not
yuck.
good.
But yeah, like
Ugh.
I'm sorry, I hate that.
Yep.
Just as much as probably more than I hate Carlton actually. So
Thanks
that's
for
saying
that.
something. I say okay. I some Carlton fans I tolerate.
Do you tolerate me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just.
Just
Just. Fremantle's. I don't hate it, but
Not too bad.
I don't
Not too
rate it
bad.
at the same time. It's probably just in the middle. I'll
Not
probably
horrible.
put about 51%.
Okay.
So I'll have that as the rate, as Lorenzo doesn't like me sitting on the fence, and St Kilda's I definitely rate.
Not sure about the yellow sleeves. I understand why they did it.
Collars.
Of course.
Collars
Yes.
and cuffs.
Yeah. Understand why, but maybe they could have just done something better. But understand why. It's just okay. It's okay, in my opinion. But nice in some. The one thing I do like are the V in the stars.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool. That's really cool.
that links to the usual chevron design that Fremantle have had for the last decade and a
Yep.
half now.
Yep.
Don't like the Carlton one. Already mentioned how I don't like that one.
Good to see
I
we're
hate it.
agreeing
But I
to
rate
there.
the other two.
I
there.
like how you actually included the Fremantle one on the same page as the Carlton one. It's basically showing how you can use
Yes.
a yellow on a jumper design that yellow isn't actually your club color.
Mm.
Like
And it's gonna
True.
work. And it's gonna happen again on the next slide, but just with a different color.
I'm excited to see.
So you want to go over? So
Go for
we
it.
were talking earlier about there are different ways to incorporate a color that isn't isn't in your main set.
Yep.
The way you do it is similar to Melbourne's here. The way you don't do it is Hawthorn's.
Oh my goodness me.
Oh
Wow.
gosh, yes, I agree with you on both fronts.
Okay.
I'm gonna go right now. I think
Shane,
Hawthorn-
if you're
Hawthorn
watching, what
should-
the hell is this, mate? Explain yourself.
I feel like Hawthorn missed the mark totally, and they should have just
Oh,
done
boy.
one. Like they could have done one line there.
Yeah,
and have,
they had
like,
the previous year, which was mostly
that's a joke.
brown with a bit of pink, which was way better. And then they decided to go. They went all out.
Let's do all pink.
On the
guys. Why
pink.
not? That's gross.
I'm pretty sure. Did they wore some pink design in a draw in Tassie against GWS?
So
I can't tell you the
just
year,
wanna
but I
say-
know they did that.
I'm just having a look at the jumper actually
Mm.
in
in
a game. It's not as bad as that pink. Like, it's
Footy jumpers is perhaps.
so if you
Done
just
a little
type in
dirty.
if you
Similar.
type in Hawthorn pink jumper, you can see it. It's still not good, but I wouldn't have it as like
No.
Yeah.
like it's not pretty.
So the one with
No,
the
it's not
mostly
great.
brown back is better, but the it's. I put Hawthorn pick jumper. One of the first that come up in in Google Images is a pedestrian TV article. A deep dive into the absolute worst AFL jerseys of the modern era.
Yeah, that's one I was looking at.
Yeah.
That's cool. Ish.
Yeah, but that's...
Oh, did we?
That will be discussed in a later date, I
Okay.
believe. But, yeah, I will go... Just not a fan of it, so hate. Melbourne one, they did some pretty good ones, and this one is no exception, so I'm going to rate. And North Melbourne, I like how they've done
Love, actually.
just something totally different.
Just different, but it's
I don't like
good.
that North Melbourne one. I
didn't
like it when it came
okay.
out, and I did like it when I watched this game.
I rate it. I
Yep,
rate it.
agree.
It's just, as I said, something different. It stands out, and it
The
kinda,
kangaroo's really cool.
It's
really cool.
it's too
it
superhero
ties
like.
but that's I think that's half of it. It ties into the cause of the Good Friday appeal.
Yep.
The one they did
So-
the following year with the Bounding Room was 100 times better. I'm not.
So I rate it. And I think we move
we
on.
got two more. We got last two.
two more.
We got Richmond and we got the Eagles. These are much subtler.
Yeah.
So once again, Eagles showing how you can utilize yellow in your jumper, even though they have yellow in their club jumper. Blah blah blah. Most of the time, they have it in their jumpers. So
And Richmond doing a similar thing with just not overbearing us. See, if that was Hawthorn or Carlton, it would have been a purple jumper.
well, I was
Right.
going to say, if it was a purple jumper, I'd probably put in the hate because it's just too much purple. But they've got
Subtle.
enough purple.
Yeah, they've
Subtle's
both
good.
done a
I
well
rate,
enough job.
I rate both of these.
I will say the
and good
tri-banner
finds.
design is
Yep, it's good.
not in the same category as the wings for any Eagles design, but that's
So good for
that's
good
what they had going at
finds.
the time.
And I look forward to next week. I'll have to figure out a theme and get back to you. However, just a sneak peek, there are a few themes coming up. Obviously, Gather Round is coming
Mhm.
up
Yep.
in
Couple of
is
weeks.
it
2, 3.
Three,
So we're in
yeah.
round 3 now. So we've
6
got
or 7?
one round, then Gather Round, and then a few weeks later will be Anzac Day. Got a few things in
Oh,
mind.
yeah.
Obviously, Anzac jumpers. And then round 9 is a special one for me. So it's when St Kilda play Carlton.
Yes, I was going to mention
And the
that.
Danny Frawley jumper. So round 9 is I can give. I'll announce it now. Is going to be names on jumpers. So
Cool.
I know a few clubs have gone down that path, and I also want to ask the question of, if you know, it'll probably be revealed in round 9. But which club was the first one to have names on their jumpers? So
Jeez.
go away, think about that one. If you know, if you're watching this and you
Let
know
us
the
know in the
answer,
comments. Yeah.
let us know in the comments. I
Actually.
actually don't know off the top of my head, but I know that it
Right.
has been a growing trend, and a lot of clubs do it now, so it's good to see. And I will have my name on the St Kilda jump in round 9, so I'm going to have to
cool.
try and start saving up to buy a player issue, just so that I can say this was a part of St Kilda history, part of my history.
Part of your history, yeah.
Exactly, but I do rate both of these. And end of rate or hate for this week, and it moves on to the next segment, which is the good old history lesson. Now, Lorenzo,
Yes,
obviously with Brisbane and Geelong, they're
playing game
postponement
this week.
Postponement from
Opening rounds,
opening round.
round 0.
So when was the last time?
So the
that
last
something
time we
like
had
this
any
happened?
games postponed and then played eventually, the initial time I wrote cancelled on this one, which is not what I meant. I meant postponed. The last time we had games postponed, round 11, 1963. Set your minds back, like I said. We're black and white, no colour, no St Kilda premierships at this particular point. And because of, predictably, wet weather, which is usually how things get postponed in the AFL or the VFL AFL, they had to call it off. I love the fact that it was decided by the VFL had a adverse weather committee. Apparently, that's the thing. Now it would just be the AFL Commission at large, but apparently they had a specific. I presume this was a group of people they met not that regularly. The adverse weather committee. They came together on the Friday because all games were played at Saturday, of course, at the time.
Yep.
They sat down on the Friday and went, yeah, too much rain. We're going to call it all off.
What do you think, guys?
Yeah, what do we think? It wasn't.
It's like the rain card in cricket.
In cricket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Every club gets one during the season.
Yes.
Let's have a look at 7 p.m. What do we think, guys?
So yeah, it wasn't the only sporting event of the weekend that had to be called off. The Grand National Steeplechase meeting at Flemington also had to be called off. The Newport to Altona railway line was shut down for several days because of the eventual rain that made its way. The interesting thing about this, and if you talk about the fixture not being perfectly balanced,
Yep.
the previous round was a sort of bye round. It was a bye round of sort. It was the classic split round, which I've advocated for before, where you had half the games on one weekend, half the games on the other weekend. So you had 3 games on the 29th of June, and then 3 games on the 6th of July, and then the week off. And then they took the week of the 13th of July off and then came back on the 20th. So for Collingwood, South Melbourne, Carlton, Melbourne, St Kilda and Footscray, they basically got an additional bye. They got a couple of weeks off before playing the following week. Footscray ended up playing Melbourne. See if how was the fixture like? Footscray played Melbourne, Collingwood, South Melbourne. South Melbourne played Essendon with an extra week advantage and still lost. And Collingwood played Geelong with an extra week off and lost. The other amusing bit of the 1963 was that round 10, that split round, saw a match between a Fitzroy team that hadn't won a single game and a Geelong team that was third. They were 2 points and percentage off top of the ladder. They were so widely expected to win. There was basically no media people even sent people to the match because they just assumed, Geelong will win pretty easily. They've got they're among the premiership favourites. They've got one of the greatest players of all time in Graham Polyfarmer. They'll be all right. Fitzroy won. And it was their only win for all of 1963 against the team that would go on to win the premiership, which is why I'm bringing this up more than anything else, because the last time we had games postponed and eventually played, 1963, Geelong won.
Wow.
They won the flag. So 9-13-67 to 3-3. You talk about backing is bad football. Geelong in what's known as the miracle match, where Fitzroy beat Geelong 3-13-31 at the Brunswick Street Oval in front of 16,000 people.
Wow. It really goes back in time.
Yeah. The other amusing thing about that particular game, the miracle match, is the fact that the two head coaches and several big name players weren't there, weren't playing for that game because Victoria was playing an interstate game at the MCG. I think that particular weekend as well. So like it wasn't State of Origin, but in effect it was the before State of Origin. Yeah. You represented the league you played for rather than the state you came from. So Wally Clark in his only game as Fitzroy seniors head coach, he was the captain coach of the reserves team at the time, rallied the troops to their first and only victory of 1963, Fitzroy, and I don't think they won a game in 1964 either. So this was an absolute miracle against a team that were going to win a premiership. The games get postponed the following week. Geelong win the flag. That's the history lesson of 1963. And it was against Hawthorn in the grand final as well, if you want to look for something that might be happening this year.
Maybe indeed.
Oh, now something else that's happening this year is the heavyweight championship that we introduced a few years ago.
Last year.
And we look back and we see how they go and who is anything that happens, that who's going to be the holder by round 24 or by the end of the
season.
Now, it'll be interesting if one of the teams holding it is actually one of the teams that gets the 2 games. That gets one of the postponement games. So
yeah.
It will be interesting. But right now it's Brisbane, and they defeated Eagles.
The Eagles by 19 points.
They were going to have a bye this weekend. Easily. But they just decided, you know what? We'll play a game this weekend instead of having the 2 byes, and they take on your
They're
Cats.
taking on the Mighty Cats, and after the poor performance from Geelong the previous week, all I'm hoping for is that first quarter that we actually bounce out of the gates and we're there and we're ready for the fight. Up at the Gabba, site of a few famous Brisbane Geelong moments in the wet as well, and it's going to be raining there in Brisbane as well, because that's just what happens when these two teams meet in the Sunshine State. This is actually, funnily enough, it's going to be the first game at the Gabba since it was announced that it's going to be knocked down in 7-ish years.
So obviously with that new stadium in Brisbane, it should be exciting stuff. Now, something else that's exciting stuff, it's not the heavyweight championship, as we've just gone through that. It is who can and can't win the flag. Now, I know last week you said you wanted to give my team a couple of weeks.
I was looking at your team. Not anymore. They're doing well. So they are not on. They have not got the X on them just yet. St Kilda. I was eyeing them up, and then they won. They beat my team. I got a good look at the St Kilda Football Club at the moment, and they're not Red X territory just yet. They survive for at least a couple more weeks. I don't intend to make any changes unless I talk myself into one. Essendon's one that's very close at the moment, but I'm going to give them an extra week because so often we're seeing teams bounce back after shockers.
True.
So playing Port Adelaide this week, that's going to be a match that's going to be amusing for all the wrong reasons.
Thursday night prime time.
And Thursday night games. So if you can't live there, that you might see Essendon come off next week. But as of now, I'm happy with my 3 of the Tigers, Roos, Eagles. They won't win it. Everyone else is alive for now, but Essendon eyeing up, Melbourne eyeing up as well. Carlton as well. Basically, if you're bottom of the ladder, you're struggling. Who else is down there? Fremantle and as well as the other
I just noticed that West Coast and Fremantle play each other this week.
They play each other. It's the Derby, and they're second last and last.
I don't know when the last time that has happened, but
it's been a while.
Looking at mine, and
all right,
if you can get mine
that's
up,
boxies. We don't care about you. We'll move you around. Here we go. Here's Woodsy.
I have the same as you now. I think this week it's going to be very interesting. I've got Essendon and Port Adelaide. This weekend, it could be. I want to see how they play against each other because of.
This almost feels like
both of them
a play-in sort of match.
Yeah, like if you lose, do I put you on? Or I've asked the questions about Port Adelaide for a few weeks, and I did that pre-season. I'm like, the whole Josh Carr stuff, I'm not sure where I can rate them. Essendon, you're not showing me anything. Zach Merritt goes down, what happens?
They're cooked.
Are you going to actually be a team of 1 or are you going to be a team of 23? Carlton.
Hello.
I'm almost tempted to put you guys on.
Yeah, that's
fair.
From what I've seen, you're
Carlton
not
and
going to
Essendon
be
for me.
anywhere near a premiership this year. Now, this could be something that gets clipped up, and when Carlton win the flag, it's like, this is the clip that I said that they can't. And
I hope so.
I'm going to be bold, and I'm putting the red X on Carlton. You're sitting right next to me.
You're going to do it right here, right now?
I'm doing it. Put it on.
All right, let me just give me a second.
Oof. Well, whilst we talk about that,
I need to remember how to do this. I'm duplicating. There
why
we go.
have you
Here
chosen that at this point?
Look,
when
there
it's
they are.
round 3.
You lose to Richmond round 1.
That's true.
You show no ticker in round 1. You don't show up.
Bold. Even I wasn't this bold.
You show up in the first half of round 1,
yeah.
and then you decide put the Q in the rack. You can't be doing that in round 1 of a season and expect to win the flag.
I'm usually very anti-Carlton. Even I haven't gone this bold.
Yes, you lost 20 points to Hawthorn. You're going to play Footscray Western Bulldogs this weekend.
Then Collingwood. Who's next?
I just want to see them.
Eagles, you probably be 5-1.
I want to pull on the pain. So they're doing terrible. Then I say you can't win it.
So you might end up 2 wins.
Geelong.
And you play Geelong.
Sunday afternoon.
I'll go up to round 10 and then.
Is that at Geelong? Oh wait, no, you never go there.
Adelaide, that's gonna be absolutely torture. Then you play St Kilda
interesting one.
That's gonna be an interesting one, and then you play Sydney. But you know what?
You can go through the entire fixture if you want here.
I just said before round 10 because I know we play them in round 9. I'm not waiting till we play them in round 9. I am going to just put that red X on them now because I think from what I've seen, there's no heart, there's no ticker. I'm sorry to say that, Carlton fans, but it's. If you want to abuse me for it by saying you're not going to win the flag this year, go ahead. But from what I've seen, it isn't pretty for you. You got a long season, and I thought I had a long season ahead of me.
No.
Is that the only one? Is there any chance of you throwing anyone else up there by any?
I'm going to chuck another team up.
Oh, he's going for another one.
Melbourne.
Ruthless. Okay. Well,
okay. This was the one I was.
Very
that was my
interesting.
pick too. Yeah.
I've seen Fan Vision.
Well, I saw.
If you haven't seen this Fan Vision,
this is the Carlton parody, isn't it?
Going down the race.
No, going down the race.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant.
Going down the race, and you've got people, and just the null looks. There's no emotion. Okay, you've just been defeated, but you won a premiership in 2020. You want to abuse your players? Go right ahead, and they're not going to win a flag this year.
I'm going to predict something here. Next week, I'm going to follow you with Carlton and Melbourne, but just maybe even throwing Essendon into the mix, but not this week. I want to see Melbourne
if we lose,
against
then you will.
Against especially if my big call gets up. Then I will almost definitely put the X on them.
But
against the Suns, a team that doesn't play much of the MCG. They've got Melbourne. It was against the Suns of the G that Carlton turned their 2023. Was it 2023? Second year of Voss season around. Yeah, 23. Yeah, because you missed the finals in 2022. You know, Collingwood closed.
Agonisingly.
Grim Reaper sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
so
I was at the game. Jamie Elliott was right in my view. There was a minute and a half to go. Slots it.
I think
Face of despair.
I think it was a
we got a thumbs up there in the
Williamstown
producer
football
room.
ground,
I was at home.
Tough
So
day.
we
had
got
a
to thank the new
barbecue. I basically
producer.
called it.
We got to thank the new producer as well
Yes,
while we're mentioning
welcome.
it. Thank you, Sean, for doing it. He is a Collingwood supporter, unfortunately. However, he's going to do an amazing job. Now,
Joshy boy.
Hold on.
Oh wait, hang on. I've jumped too soon.
I've thought about this in the brief time I was talking.
Yeah, brief.
Remembering we can only remove 3 X's. I'm going
Yes.
to add 2 more.
You're going to throw it.
He
Oh
is
wow, this is
ruthless
extraordinary.
today. Wow.
It's only round. We've only had opening round and 2 rounds.
rounds.
The Suns have only
Round
played
two.
one match, and he's already going to knock out almost half the comp.
I'm gonna put a red X on Essendon and Port Adelaide.
Oh wow, okay.
Port Adelaide?
Yeah.
Oof.
Once
To be
again,
fair, I'm looking forward to putting the red X on Port Adelaide.
once again,
Interesting.
Essendon,
Essendon go there.
you're not a team without Zach Merritt.
Yeah, they are.
Your loss
Understand that
against both Hawthorn,
Course.
but more so against more so against Adelaide. You might as well have lost against yourselves because you did not really have any defense. It was like an NBA All-Star game.
You did it
True.
not.
Yeah,
Now,
good job.
Port Adelaide. I think the reason's obvious. I can't pin them down. I can't go, are they not? I know I'm just going, yeah, you know what? They're not. I don't think they're going to do it for Ken Hinckley. And I could be wrong, and who knows, he might retire a premiership coach. However, you cannot show up round 1 and dish out a performance like they did, lose by 91 points. Obviously, this week they played a team, Richmond.
We've
at
already got the
home,
X on them.
72. But this week, I mean, they've got us in round 4, so I think I'm not going to put it on them then. And they play Hawthorn. Now, I could have waited till gather round, but I'm not. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to. You say, I could almost put an X on my own team, but I'm not going to just yet.
Yeah, of all
But-
the teams you did for
Well,
one,
But
well, they had a win.
I just really want to track on like when you put teams on and you're going, yep. So I'm being a bit more bold. I'm not holding off like you said we did last year.
yes, you
I'm
did.
going for the throne on a few teams, and I'm going like
That's fair.
so Melbourne,
This is
Carlton, Port Adelaide, and Essendon I've added. I just think they've shown no real heart. They're showing up to half games. You can't be doing that if you want to win the flag.
Yep.
Now on to
Now,
you, Josh.
can we get to Josh? Josh has
Yes.
not, because this is his first footy chat, he's got a completely blank canvas,
Look at
and
that.
you're allowed to throw on whatever you want. The so as a
So if you
just
want
as
to
a
throw one on
reminder,
St Kilda, you can.
so as a reminder,
Yes, well, I won't be here every week, unfortunately, due to work commitments, but I will happily put a few down. Please put down West Coast,
What was
North
that?
Melbourne.
Right, hang on,
I'll
give me a
let
second.
you,
I
yeah.
wanna,
I'm
I
just
want to
thinking.
send it. I want to make these look nice.
Nice alignment. I
Is
love that.
unlike me. Yes,
Hold
North
on,
Melbourne.
What I'll do is I'll help
Oh.
out.
No, it's
Oh,
fine.
yeah.
And go on.
North, who else we're looking at here?
on, chip the cake, come on now.
Richmond, of course. Well, not of course, but sorry, guys.
Here we go. I've got it.
Oh, hello, we got, like,
there's a fight
80 X's
going
on
on. I've
the
got to move
screen.
mine out of the way. Here we go. All right, I'll just let you do it. Woodsy.
Melbourne, please, as well.
You're going to go Melbourne as
Yep,
well?
Yep,
Not
I've
happy with
never been sold on them this year and last year, and I think I'm tempted for Essendon. I really, really am, but I'll give them another week. I think that will do me for now.
Alrighty.
4.
So 4.
Unlike you, who's cut out basically half of the.
He's got 7.
half
There's
the
7
teams.
here, so that's nearly half the comp.
Yep.
But there will be St Kilda in a few weeks' time.
Oh,
4
yeah.
for now.
So I do honestly think that Adelaide, Brisbane, Collingwood, Geelong, Giants, Hawthorn, Sydney are the real contenders.
Yeah.
So there's 6 teams there
Yep.
that I've named. But
Look, I'm not going to rule out my team just yet. Yes, I don't think it's a premiership list, but stranger things have happened. But
okay,
we'll
well
find out.
that is a who can and can't win the flag, and I think there was some big calls made. And
Oh,
talking
there were
about
big calls. There were big calls.
Talking
all right.
about big calls, let's go through the last big calls. It was just Lorenzo and myself. And we were way off the mark with Lorenzo going a score of 120. Well, you were only 29
Only 29 points off. That's not that
91.
far away.
Horrible.
And it was looking worse at times during that
It was.
particular match.
Now, I actually, looking back at my prediction of a win combined 200 plus, I reckon Adelaide were the only ones.
Adelaide were the only ones who held up there.
61. Collingwood won by 6 and Hawthorn won by 20 and Geelong did not
Lost.
win. So that was a -7 there. So
What you needed to throw in was Port Adelaide. They were the ones in retrospect. Because
I
even
should-
Brisbane at
I was gonna
19
say
wouldn't have helped you much.
Adelaide, Brisbane, North Melbourne probably would have given me a very
Yeah, but
close
no one
thing.
would have guessed that. Even this, that would have been
That would've
outlandish
been
calls.
the massive call. However, we move on. So we're both on 0 now. This week we've got a few interesting calls. Talk us through yours.
All right, so my one might actually not look that big initially, or at least relative to the last ones, until you remember that the line for this game on the betting markets is 2.5 points. So I've tossed up between 24 and 30, and I've gone 30 plus for the Dogs to beat the Blues on. It's Friday night, isn't it? You're playing Friday night.
Yes, Friday night.
Friday
Indeed.
night at
Marvel Stadium,
at Marvel Stadium.
Docklands.
So it's in effect a Dogs home game. They have
Yep.
been prolific. They were prolific scoring at that particular venue, 17, 11, 113 the previous week. Very unlucky not to get the job done against Collingwood, the Bulldogs, when they were playing as Footscray in their celebratory 100 years in the V/AFL match. And they started that match very well and looked all over Collingwood through the first quarter, half quarter of that particular match. And if you do that against Carlton, well, you're basically home. So I'm going 30 plus against the Bulldogs, and if that does happen, expect a red X over Carlton in who can't win
Very
the flag
nice.
in
It
Footy
is
Chat
semi-likely.
F6.
It is semi-likely,
Now-
but we'll find out.
I can't believe the line's 2.5. If you're a betting man and you like the Dogs, bet the line. Don't bet the outright Dogs win. Anyway, Woodsy, you're going for this is quite
18
the
plus
opposite.
game
This is the yes.
I'm going a crowd
This is the
one
positive
this week.
one.
Now, I looked at the crowd for St Kilda Geelong now.
Yes.
It was 36,663. Now, I think we'll be about the same. Obviously, I don't know if Geelong supporters outweighed the Saints supporters, or after a Saints win, I should almost go 40,000. And I was thinking about it. And you know what? I am actually going to...
You're going to change that to
change
40?
it to 37.
Oh, 37.
37,500. Just
Okay.
evening it out. 37,500, just a bit different.
And we've got the crowd in
I
here
think
for
thir-
Maddie's
I
match.
think
37,499 people are up.
35,000 is
Could
a
you
bit
imagine?
too much. But if it was 37,499, I will be a bit annoyed. But I think that Saints fans after a win will show up, and obviously Maddie's match. And it's going to be an interesting one. I've decided to venture out and to figure out different ways we can do this, and it's not just a win. It's not just the combined margin. We're going to look at different ways we can explore it, and we're including anybody that jumps on. We're inviting them to make a big call as well. And this week we've got Josh. Now, Josh has gone kind of... I don't advocate sports betting in the football. I just want to say this right now, but I feel like you're
This
going
is
to
a
put
multi.
this on a multi.
No, absolutely not. I don't bet on my team. Always been
Well-
that way, and I'll be in attendance. And I think
I think that's
My
why you
big
keep
call-
losing.
my big call is Captain Cripps to get us over the line. I think he's been in some very good form as of late, and of course last year as well. I think
He's one of about only 3 Carlton players that have had
So-
half decent starts to the
two-time
season.
Brownlow medalist.
So talk us through this. 35 disposals and a
Yep.
Carlton win?
Yes, he's going to just get us over the line in the fourth quarter. I reckon this is going to be a cracking game, but as you highlighted there,
Very-
it could also be a massive blowout and be 30 plus. It could.
Well,
It just
so
depends what type
want-
of Carlton rocks up on the day.
I always want to get clarification. Sorry. So last week I clarified that the win 200 plus can include losses as long as the combined margin is 200 plus. Now, with yours, you've just said a close win, but it's won't you
Just an
clarify?
outright win.
It has to be a win. It doesn't matter if it's
Yep.
1 point or 99
Yep.
points.
Just has to get us
But-
over the line.
Carlton have to win with Patrick Cripps getting 35 disposals. So very nice there. Now,
I love the fact that
Don't
our
mind it.
big calls are in contrast here.
Yes,
So by
yes.
Friday night we're gonna have the answer to that. We're gonna
There you
have
go.
either.
however,
Mind you, they could both falter.
No,
They could.
hold on, you might have doggies winning by less than 30, or you might have Carlton winning and Patrick Cripps getting less than 34. So
Yeah, there's
you
there's
can
avenues for
half of it be right, but just not be totally right.
yeah,
So
exactly.
No.
But they're sort of they're on differing sides of the same. I'm all on the Bulldogs and he's all on the Blues, and we'll see how it goes.
Well,
It's going to make Friday night much more exciting.
Cripps
But-
can't do it himself.
But
ultimately,
let's look
he needs-
ahead.
He needs the help. But hopefully Walsh, Chera, Hewitt can all help him out to get us over the line.
Right, let's move it along.
And let's look ahead. So Thursday night we've got Essendon, Port Adelaide, two teams that I've already put the X on, and I
So
feel
there's
like
no point of playing this match.
I
There's
feel
no
like
point
the
of
loser.
Doing any of this.
I
Is
feel
there?
like the loser might just have the
My
red
red
X
X,
on them
yeah.
next weekend.
Well, it depends if it's a sort of I might get them off. If it's a 1 point loss, and if it's a draw, they definitely both survive. But if there's one particular, if it's a pretty heavy defeat for one side over the other.
I feel like I just got the feeling it will be. I don't know. On Friday night, you've got your Blues against the Bulldogs. Now,
Yes.
My
I'll
adopted
be
team
there.
for this week.
once again, could be a bit of a bloodbath.
Could.
On
I will
Saturday,
be there regardless.
On Saturday, we've got Melbourne Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And once again,
Interesting.
it's funny how the first three teams have first three games have teams that I've put the red X on.
Yeah.
So I'm actually expecting Melbourne to win this, but I don't. I'm kind of like I put the red X on them now. I'm just wanting them to lose a few games. now.
I've just noticed here that Google and they haven't done it for West Coast for the last 7 years, so it's not a surprise that for Gold Coast their icon is still their old logo and jumper. But given the West Coast one is still the tri panel and not the wings, that's not a big surprise.
Well, I'm guessing that the St Kilda logo wouldn't have changed as well as we play Richmond in Maddie's match. Now, you might have noticed this flag here. This is the...
Ooh, wow, look at that.
So it's a bit of a Maddie's match one, which was made for the first Maddie's match. My mum made it, so I'll be taking it for the last time for
Amazing.
Maddie's match. I love what they've done, and I'm excited
Great cause. Great cause.
I'll just put that there, just not over Carlton. I'm excited, and hopefully we can get over the line, and 37,000 or 38,000, just to be safe, 38,000 people can rock Marvel Stadium for our second win of the season. Saturday night, we're looking Hawthorn and GWS and Brisbane and Geelong.
I hate the fact that these two matches are going to clash with each other because I just feel like both are going to be
I
so
feel like
interesting to
Exactly.
watch.
Good
I
point.
honestly
They're
And
both
this might be the
crackers.
volcano for next week is fixturing because it's one of my favourite topics when people get angry about the fixturing.
Well, these
Now,
are
it's
almost
one of-
finals previews.
Yeah.
Very potentially.
Like, you could see a final matchup of these two contenders later on in the season. I can't pick winners right now, but I reckon whoever wins
There is
here
going to, I can
will set themselves up, especially in the Brisbane-Geelong match where the winner gets the title.
I can confirm there will be fighting in the Demora Hayes household. Is the game on with my Cats or my Brothers Giants? Given they're both happening at the same time and they're both on Fox.
I look forward to
True.
hearing about that, and
There'll be
KO split
hefty
screen.
debates. Yeah, well, else every time we try and load up the split screen, it doesn't work. So we're gonna have to try and work that
I'm
one
gonna have
out.
to try and figure out which game gets the commentary
You
now.
can watch it
on
at the pub with
Sunday.
a couple of mates. Do that instead.
I'm happy to give the Hawks Giants the commentary
Or
as long
us.
as I'm still watching the Cats.
And on Sunday, we've got Adelaide versus North Melbourne, in which is going to be interesting to see how North Melbourne continue their momentum. But I think Adelaide,
They're looking very good at the
early
moment, aren't
season
they?
form is just too good. I
Yep.
think they're going to run over the
Looking
line.
good.
And now we've got the Derby. The Derby.
The Derby.
The Derby.
I always go Derby,
Derby,
just for this
Derby.
one example. And it's the bottom of the
18th
table
versus
clash.
17th, West Coast versus Fremantle. Now, it's probably going to be a packed Optus Stadium.
Oh yeah,
think so.
nevertheless.
And it'll be very interesting. And if Fremantle lose this, there might just be that red X over them.
Oh yeah.
Once again,
That'd be
they're
early
like,
to
they're
call
like
it.
Port Adelaide. I don't know where to rate them, but we'll wait and see. Now, I think that's all the time we've got for this week. If
Pretty
there's
much.
anything else you want to mention, save it for next week or save it for the socials. And until then, we'll see you next week. Bang.